run up behind her and grabbed her. He turned around and come right back to here where his truck was, where the door was open, and put her in the truck.
Somebody kidnapped Amber. She's gone, Richard.
9-year-old Amber Hagerman has been missing since Saturday.
Don't hurt my baby, please. She's just an innocent child, please. When this man took my daughter, he took my dreams, my best friend.
Take your time, please. I know it's not easy.
Sorry.
Protect Act of 2003 will greatly assist law enforcement in tracking criminals who would harm our children.
What if I told you the police actually possess the DNA of the monster who changed child safety forever, but they are absolutely terrified to test it? 30 years ago, 9-year-old Amber Hagerman was snatched off her pink bicycle in broad daylight. It took exactly 8 minutes. But the horrifying truth, her killer didn't end her life right away. He kept her alive and pure, agonizing terror for 2 full days before dumping her body. Today, investigators are in a paralyzing standoff with science over one microscopic sample. Risk testing it now, or wait and let a killer walk free? What would you do? Fast forward to today, the year 2026. It has been exactly 3 decades since 9-year-old Amber Hagerman was stolen from her family in broad daylight. But if you think her file is just some dusty cold case sitting forgotten in a basement box, you are dead wrong. The Arlington Police Department is still actively hunting this monster. The dedicated hotline is still ringing. They have meticulously tracked down and investigated over 7,000 tips. And recently, the chilling reality finally came to light. Investigators actually possess the killer's DNA. But what no one knew was the absolute psychological torture that comes with holding that specific piece of evidence.
Her killer has never been found. The Amber Alert system we use today was started in her honor.
You see, when Amber's body was finally discovered, massive, brutal storms had battered the Texas area. Torrential floodwaters washed over her, essentially scrubbing the crime scene and wiping away almost all viable forensic traces. What investigators miraculously managed to recover was a microscopic, highly degraded biological sample. Right now, we have mind-blowing technology like genetic genealogy, the exact same science that finally caught the Golden State Killer. So, you're probably screaming at your screen, asking why they haven't just uploaded it to a database to find this guy's family tree. The agonizing answer, a terrifying scientific catch-22. The DNA sample is so incredibly minuscule and fragile that putting it through the rigorous extraction process required for modern testing could completely destroy it. If the current technology isn't quite sensitive enough to read that specific degraded sequence, they lose their one and only shot. Forever. The evidence just vanishes. I gotta be honest with you guys. Having the actual DNA of a child killer sitting right there in an evidence room, but being absolutely terrified to touch it. That is the ultimate nightmare. Imagine being the lead detective holding that tiny vial, knowing the answer is literally in your hands, but you are paralyzed by the risk of destroying it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done? Would you risk testing it right now to get a name, or wait and pray for better science while this monster is potentially still walking the streets? This is where the story takes a dark turn, because that tiny vial of DNA isn't the only ghost haunting this investigation. Back in the year 2000, a notorious and bloodthirsty serial killer named Tommy Lynn Sells made a completely unprompted, shocking confession.
How many people have you killed?
Lord, I don't know. I don't know.
10?
Sells was a drifter who brutally butchered women and children across the country. From behind bars, he claimed that he was the man in the black truck who snatched Amber. He dropped chilling details that made seasoned investigators freeze in their tracks. Detectives worked frantically to verify his twisted story, desperately trying to cross-examine his timeline to definitively pin him to Arlington on that tragic January afternoon. But the justice system has its own timeline. Before police could officially lock down the facts and close Amber's case, the clock ran out. In 2014, the state of Texas executed Tommy Lynn Sells for another horrific murder. He took whatever secrets he had straight to the execution chamber. To this day, Investigators are haunted by the possibility that Amber's killer is already dead, or worse, that Sells was just a psychopath craving the spotlight, and the real predator is still out there, hiding in plain sight.
Reporter Pam Curry was following Amber's mom, Donna Williams, for a documentary about getting off welfare and into the workplace.
That's a pretty big deal, isn't it?
Yes. So we captured sweet moments like this one.
Look, Mom, I made this for you.
Thank you. That's pretty. Dear Mom, this is for you that I made at school. I love you a lot. Love you.
Only 3 months later, Amber would be gone.
Let's take it back to the exact moment the nightmare actually began. January 13th, 1996. Arlington, Texas. We aren't going to dive into a long, drawn-out backstory here, because the terrifying reality is that evil doesn't need a backstory to strike. It was an uncharacteristically warm Saturday afternoon. 9-year-old Amber and her 5-year-old brother, Ricky, were doing what kids in the 90s did best: exploring. They hopped on their bikes and pedaled over to an abandoned Winn-Dixie grocery store just a couple of blocks away. To a kid, that massive, empty parking lot with its concrete loading ramps was an absolute playground. After riding around for a bit, little Ricky started getting worried about breaking their grandmother's rules. He turned his bike around and pedaled home, assuming his big sister would be right behind him. He left Amber alone for just a few short moments so she could take one last lap. I gotta be honest with you, thinking about this specific timeline makes me physically sick. From the moment Ricky left the parking lot to the moment he realized Amber wasn't coming back, it was a window of exactly 8 minutes. 8 minutes is nothing. It's the time it takes to drink a cup of coffee. Little did anyone know, those 8 minutes would change the world forever. In that agonizingly narrow window, a 78-year-old retired man named Jim Kevill was standing in his backyard, which directly overlooked that Winn-Dixie lot, and what he witnessed is pure, unfiltered nightmare fuel. A dark, full-sized, single-cab pickup truck suddenly rolled up right next to Amber. A man jumped out, and the horrifying truth is, this wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't someone she knew. This was a textbook, daylight stranger abduction. Jim watched in absolute shock as the man lunged at the little girl. Amber fought back with everything she had. She was kicking frantically, thrashing wildly, and screaming at the top of her lungs as this monster ripped her off her brand new pink bicycle. But the guy was just too fast. He grabbed her violently under the arms, hoisted her up, and shoved her through the driver's side door into the cab of the truck. He executed this with such terrifying speed and practiced precision that when police later processed the scene, they found absolutely nothing. He didn't leave a single fingerprint on the handlebars. Not a smudge. Not a trace, just a little girl's pink bicycle lying completely abandoned on the cold concrete. The truck's tires screeched, but instead of peeling out and burning rubber toward the nearest interstate highway to make a quick getaway, the driver did the exact opposite. He took a sharp turn and drove his black pickup truck straight into the heart of Arlington. He melted right back into the local traffic, disappearing into the city like a ghost. Am I the only one who finds it completely terrifying how a predator can just blend into the crowd like that? Drop a comment. How does someone pull off a violent kidnapping in broad daylight and just vanish? Once the police realized Amber was actually gone, the agonizing wait began. Everyone was desperately praying for a quick, safe recovery, but we need to fast forward to the forensic reports for a second, because they reveal the absolute most sickening detail of this entire case. The horrifying truth is, Amber was not killed on the afternoon she was snatched. The monster who took her didn't end her life right away. Medical examiners later determined that her official date of death was January 15th. Let that sink in for a second. I gotta be honest with you guys, whenever I read about this specific detail, it just makes my blood boil and makes me physically sick to my stomach. We are talking about a tiny, innocent 9-year-old girl. She was held captive alive by a complete psychopath for 48 excruciating hours. 2 full days and nights. You just have to wonder what was going through her sweet mind. Was she crying out for her mom? Was she awake that entire time, trapped in some dark room, terrified and wondering if anyone was ever coming to save her? Thinking about a child enduring that level of pure, unadulterated terror for 48 hours before being murdered. It's beyond heartbreaking. It's evil in its absolute purest form. And while Amber was living through this unimaginable, real-life horror movie, her family was descending into their own psychological hell. Donna's house practically became ground zero for the entire city. The media completely swarmed the property. There were news vans parked everywhere, blinding camera flashes, and reporters shouting invasive questions right from the front lawn.
When this man took my daughter, he took my dreams, my best friend.
Take your time, please. I know it's not easy.
Sorry. I would never, ever want another mother to have to go through what I had gone through, or another child be taken away.
On top of the media circus, hundreds of strangers from the local community poured into the family's home. People were grabbing stacks of missing person flyers, organizing search grids, and offering their support. On the surface, it sounds amazing, right? A community coming together in a time of crisis. But what no one knew was the terrifying paranoia that was slowly suffocating Amber's family. Imagine standing in your own living room, completely sleep-deprived and broken, surrounded by dozens of people you have never seen before in your life. A dark, sickening thought started to creep into the minds of Donna and Amber's grandmother. We all know that in true crime, the perpetrators often insert themselves into the investigation. They join the search parties to play the hero and stay close to the police radar. What if the man who violently dragged Amber into that black truck was standing right there in their kitchen? What if he was holding a flyer with her face on it, drinking their coffee, and looking a grieving mother dead in the eyes, pretending to care? Does this seem weird to you, or would you be completely paranoid too? Let me know down below. The sheer chaos of the situation was blinding everyone, and as that 48-hour window closed, the worst was yet to come. 4 agonizing days had passed since Amber vanished. The entire city of Arlington was holding its breath, clinging to the fading hope that the little girl with the pink bicycle would be brought home safely. And then everything changed when the clock struck 11:40 p.m. on January 17, 1996. A man was simply walking his dog near the secluded Forest Ridge apartment complex. As he casually glanced over a fence toward a nearby drainage creek, he spotted something pale floating in the water. When he looked closer, his absolute worst nightmare became a reality. It was the lifeless body of a little girl, floating face down in the cold, murky creek. The most unsettling part, this secluded, hard-to-reach spot was a mere 4 miles away from the exact parking lot where Amber had been violently abducted. This is where the story takes a dark turn, and I have to warn you, the forensic details are incredibly brutal. When investigators pulled Amber from the water, the sheer savagery of the crime was laid bare. She was found completely naked, stripped of her dignity and innocence, wearing absolutely nothing but a single sock on her left foot. The medical examiner confirmed the horrifying cause of death. Her throat had been slashed so viciously with what police described as a knife, or even a screwdriver, that it was nearly ripped out. What struck me the most was the unimaginable heartbreak of Amber's mother, Donna. When a mother loses her child, her first, most primal instinct is to hold her baby one last time to say goodbye. Donna literally begged the detectives to let her see Amber, just to hold her little hands before the autopsy. But the authorities had to look a grieving, shattered mother in the eyes and deny her that closure. They told her the trauma was simply too severe, gently explaining that the little girl lying on that cold steel table no longer looked like Amber. I gotta be honest with you guys, just thinking about a mother hearing those words shatters my heart into a million pieces. And as if this tragedy wasn't already devastating enough, Mother Nature herself seemingly became an accomplice to the murder. Right after the killer dumped Amber's body upstream, a massive, violent thunderstorm rolled through Arlington. The torrential floodwaters violently swept her body downstream to where she was eventually discovered. But the storm did something far worse. The heavy, surging water completely washed away the primary crime scene. It essentially scrubbed Amber's skin clean, washing away fingerprints, hairs, and virtually all the physical forensic evidence the killer might have left behind. The chilling reality finally came to light. The elements had washed the police's best shot at catching this monster right down the drain, pushing the investigation into a devastating dead end. Think about it, he dumped her just 4 miles away, right in the middle of a massive, heavily publicized citywide manhunt. Am I the only one who finds this incredibly suspicious? Doesn't that scream that this guy was a local who knew exactly where to hide? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What would you have deduced from this? As if the physical nightmare of losing Amber wasn't enough, the emotional aftermath that her family was forced to endure is it's sickening. What struck me the most was how the absolute worst of humanity crawled out of the woodwork to exploit a mother's shattered heart. When the news broke and the reward money eventually skyrocketed to tens of thousands of dollars, Donna wasn't just battling unimaginable grief, she was being actively hunted by predators of a completely different kind. This is where the story takes a dark turn, because we need to talk about a deeply disturbing, rarely mentioned part of this case: the scammers. Despicable con artists and fake psychics started relentlessly calling and harassing Donna. They would call this grieving, desperate mother, claiming that they were actively communicating with Amber's spirit from beyond the grave. They promised her that they knew exactly who the killer was and where to find him, but, of course, they demanded massive cash payouts first. Some even tried to extort her, offering to trade the killer's identity. Only if Donna used her new media platform to help them get out of their own unrelated legal troubles. I gotta be honest with you guys, hearing how fake psychics scammed a grieving mother makes my blood boil. It takes a special kind of monster to look at a woman who just had her 9-year-old daughter brutally murdered and think, how can I make a quick buck off her pain? Am I the only one who finds that just as evil? Drop a comment, because I seriously cannot comprehend that level of depravity. And while Donna was trying to navigate this toxic, parasitic circus, she was also desperately trying to hold together the broken pieces of her 5-year-old son, Ricky. Little Ricky didn't fully understand the permanence of death at first. For a while, he kept innocently asking his mom if his sissy was just asleep. But as the horrific reality finally settled in, the psychological toll on this little boy became absolutely unbearable. Ricky started acting out, hitting, and crying inconsolably. The survivor's guilt he carried on his tiny shoulders was crushing. He would literally scratch at himself, breaking down and sobbing to his mother in pure agony, saying, "It's my fault. The bad man took Amber because I left Sissy alone. It's my fault." Can you even imagine? A 5-year-old child carrying the weight of his sister's brutal murder, fully believing that if he had just stayed by her side in that Winn-Dixie parking lot instead of pedaling ahead, she would still be alive today. The monster in the black truck didn't just take Amber's life that afternoon, he destroyed the innocence of a little boy and shattered an entire family forever. The chilling reality finally came to light. The physical evidence might have washed away in the storm, but the emotional wreckage was going to last a lifetime. The chilling reality finally came to light when police started deeply analyzing the killer's escape route and the dumping site. Think about it, if you kidnap a child in broad daylight, your first instinct is usually to hit the nearest interstate highway and put as many miles between you and the crime scene as humanly possible, right? But this guy didn't do that. He drove straight into the heart of Arlington. Furthermore, the spot where he left Amber's body was incredibly secluded. It wasn't some random ditch a passing drifter would just stumble upon. Because of this, investigators became dead set on what they called the local theory. They firmly believed this monster lived, worked, or regularly hung out right near that abandoned Winn-Dixie parking lot. He knew the layout of the town. He knew the hidden back roads. He was the guy next door. With this specific theory in mind, you would think the authorities were finally closing in. But I gotta be honest with you guys, the investigation quickly hit a massive, infuriating brick wall. The FBI was brought in to build a psychological profile of the killer, hoping to give local detectives a solid advantage. But the highly anticipated profile they released was completely and utterly useless. It basically stated the suspect was a white or Hispanic male in his 20s or 30s who might have a bad temper, and who might have recently sold his black truck or changed his appearance. Yeah, no kidding. It was so agonizingly generic that it gave the police absolutely nothing to work with. With leads completely drying up and the authorities running out of options, Amber's mother, Donna, refused to just sit around in silence. She was drowning in grief, yes, but she was also filled with a blinding, righteous rage. What struck me the most was her fierce, unbreakable spirit in the face of such pure evil. She took matters into her own hands and penned a direct, blood-chilling open letter to the murderer, having it published in the local newspapers for the entire city to read. It wasn't just a plea for answers, it was a mother's curse. Her words cut straight to the bone. She demanded to know why he took her best friend and why he hurt her baby. But the lines that still give me absolute goosebumps to this day were her final, echoing warning to the killer. How could you look into my little girl's tearful eyes and do what you did? You will not get away with this. You can't hide forever. Remember, there is one person who saw you do this horrible act, and that one person is God. Imagine being the monster who did this, sitting in your living room just a few streets away, picking up the morning paper and reading a grieving mother's promise of vengeance. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the killer read that letter? Do you think he was a local who watched the family grieve on the evening news? Let me know down below. Out of the absolute darkest moments of human depravity, sometimes a sliver of light manages to break through. While Amber's physical life was stolen from her in the most brutal way imaginable, her legacy rose from the ashes to literally change the world. And then everything changed when an ordinary woman from Texas named Diana Simone, who had absolutely no personal connection to the family, called a local radio station with a brilliant, desperate idea. She asked a simple, glaring question. If broadcasters can interrupt our television and radio programs to warn us about severe weather and tornadoes, why can't they do the exact same thing when a child is abducted? That single, fateful phone call birthed the AMBER alert system, America's Missing Broadcast Emergency Response. It weaponized the eyes and ears of the entire public. To understand the sheer, undeniable power of Amber's legacy, just look at what happened in May 2019. An 8-year-old girl named Salem Sabaka was violently snatched off the street in Fort Worth, Texas, just 15 miles away from where Amber was taken. But this time, history didn't repeat itself. The AMBR alert was instantly triggered. Millions of cell phones blared that unmistakable, chilling alarm. Highway billboards immediately lit up with the suspect's car description. Because of that rapid alert, a local pastor spotted the vehicle in a hotel parking lot. By 2:22 a.m., police kicked the hotel door in and rescued Salem safely. It didn't take 4 agonizing days of blind, desperate searching. It took just a few short hours. I gotta be honest with you guys, every single time I hear that harsh, jarring alarm go off on my phone, it gives me absolute chills. It truly feels like Amber is still here, actively reaching out from heaven to save another child. But while Amber's legacy is out there saving thousands of lives, we absolutely cannot forget that she still hasn't received her own justice. As of today, the $10,000 reward for information leading to an arrest remains fully active. The horrifying truth is, for 3 decades, a monster has been walking among us. He didn't just vanish into thin air. He is out there right now, just growing older, breathing free air, maybe going to the grocery store or pumping his gas, completely blending into society while Amber's family continues to bleed. So, I leave it to you to debate. What do you guys think really happened? Was it the serial killer, Tommy Lynn Sells, taking the bloody secret to his grave? Or is the monster still walking free right now in Arlington? Let me know down below. I gotta be honest, I'll keep you posted if I find anything new regarding that DNA evidence or any future updates. Thanks so much for watching and for all your comments. Appreciate you guys. Stay safe out there.